Hi, and welcome to Dramatic Knits. My name is Steve, also known as Dramatic Knits.
And I'm Callie, also known as Cowsters.
And today is Sunday, October 30th, 2016. This is episode 268. If you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back. And if you're new, hopefully you enjoyed today's show and you'll come back in the future. So it's been 3 weeks. 3 very long weeks since we've spoke last. Did you miss us? We missed you guys. Felt very awkward not recording last weekend.
Yeah.
But alas, I was traveling the past 2 weekends. So, anyway, let's just jump right into 3 weeks in review, shall we? So, not a whole lot going on other than vending at shows the past 2 weekends. 2 weekends ago, Leading Men Fiber Arts vended at the Bishop Hills annual annual spin-in. It was a nice, relaxing day. Not extremely busy, but always good to catch up with folks. There was not as many vendors this year, but we considered a show that's like in our backyard. It's just over an hour away from us, and we decided last minute. It was Saturday, and it's right outside of Peoria, Illinois. And we decided last minute to drive up Friday night, and we stayed at the Paradise Hotel and Casino and got a room that we booked with hotel points, hotel.com points. So we paid like $20 for the room, and we went and had dinner at the buffet and thought that was going to be fun. We then realized on a Friday night it's actually rather disgusting to see that crowded of a buffet and just Anyway, so we're like, meh. And then we gambled a little bit, and I was actually up $100 off of $40, so I was like, yeah. And then what do? I can never walk away. But I had a couple hours of fun, and Andy lost a lot more, so Andy lost some money. But he was like, I'm done. I don't want to gamble anymore. So then we vended, and then I had a full work week, and last weekend we drove up to Ann Arbor, Michigan to vend at the Fall Fiber Expo, and it was a lot of fun. It was our second year vending there. Got to know quite a few new vendors, new to me vendors. Had dinner, went out to dinner with some of them, and it was a really good show. So we'll be back next year. I just got to remember to put in the application. And then we drove to Northern Indiana on Sunday night and stayed with Andy's mom. I took Monday off, and then we drove home Monday morning into afternoon. Andy drove all the way up to Michigan and to his mom's, and I actually drove from his mom's back. So I was proud of myself, because if you know me, I don't like driving that truck and trailer. So together, I drive the truck every day, but with trailer, I'm always a nervous Nelly. Anyway, so it was a good show. And then, so I had Monday off. Tuesday I had a faculty meeting. Wednesday we had parent-teacher conferences, which we had a night of those right the Thursday before Fall Fiber Expo. So it was a long week. And then Friday we had off because we did 2 nights of parent-teacher conferences. We got to vote and do 2 nights. That way we got a Friday off. And I took that Friday off, and I went and visited our friend Amber, who is Yarn Hoarder, who has a podcast now. If you are not watching, which I'm sure if you watch us, you are probably in the know and have been watching hers, but you can find her on YouTube. She is the Yarn Hoarder podcast, and that woman can just be herself, and she is just in a league of her own. She's an amazingly bright and genuine person. And so I drove down. She's only about just over 2 hours from my place. And we're like, there's really no reason that we don't get to see each other more often. So I went down and visited her, and we just hung out for about 5 hours and knit and talked. And we had lunch, and I had a salad. I know. I was like, what's going on? I'm eating produce now. It's crazy. Some produce. I mean, not all the time. But I know. Don't get choked up over there. My tagline is I'm allergic to produce. I don't like produce. It's not my thing. But anyway, so it was a good time. And then I came back early afternoon, got home early evening, and still did some work around the house. So it was nice to get out. So we're hoping to maybe visit each other maybe once a month and trade off who goes where and what. But it's just nice to see her. In fact, we're both going to Zombie Apocalypse next year, and I think we're going to be carpooling up together. So I'm super excited about that. So, yes,
Amber's good people.
she's very good people, and you can definitely tell that when you watch her podcast if you do. So, and if you meet her in real life, she'll give you a hug and genuinely listen to what you have to say, and you'll be better to have known her, most definitely. So, anyway, so that's pretty much been my 3 weeks in review, and yeah, tomorrow's Halloween, so happy Halloween if you're watching. Hopefully it's a spooktacular Halloween. I'm kind of dressing up for work tomorrow. I was telling Callie, we have like Teacher Institute and the other high schools coming to our high school for all-day meetings, and we were supposed to have a costume contest, and the other high school backed out. And anyway, I'm going as Oscar Wilde. He's an author, if you don't know. But I just have a t-shirt with a painting of him on it and his signature. So my department, the English department, we're going as the Cannon, if you are unfamiliar. Other than cannons, like, that shoot cannonballs, there's something called the Canon in literature, which is pretty much, people say it's a bunch of old dead white guys, the classics. And so we're kind of going as the Canon, where each chose a different piece of classic literature or not a classic author. So
I feel like if you're a student of Steve's, really, this is the Illuminati of authors.
Yep. So anyway, that's all for me. On to you.
My 3 weeks have been super busy. I celebrated my birthday, and thank you for all of the birthday wishes. It was a good birthday. Got to eat at my favorite restaurants and do some of my favorite things, so that was good. The next day, I had the privilege of hosting the next leadership class at where I work, and I made the meal. I donated the meal. So I was really excited about that because everybody really enjoyed it, and I had 4 different soups, salad, and dessert, as well as for their snack they got fresh homemade Chex Mix straight from the oven, which I find way tantalizing. The following week I had to teach, it was busy, but I had a Clover Buds workshop, so that's for my 5 to 7 year old kiddos. And it was on composting, and it went well. I will say that it was stressful because that morning I went and got worms because I decided that I looked at my lesson plan and realized there was going to be probably a chunk of time in between it. So I bought worms to show them about Vermilia. I think that's the correct term. I always get it slightly confused because there's a town named Vermilion, and I think it's the same. Anyways, basically composting with worms. And so I went to go buy worms, and when I didn't check them while I was there because I bought them at our local Casey's gas station, which always has bait all the time. And so I got into work, had my breakfast at work, and then I opened up the worms to, get them ready for the lesson plan because I always get there super early so I can have breakfast at work and then, buff out an hour in case if something goes wrong. Opened up the worms, and there was supposed to be 12 in them. There was not 12, and they were not alive. So, so that was box number 1. Remember, I said I bought 2 boxes. Box number 2, I open up, and it's mold. Like, it is straight up mold. And I was like, awesome. So I'm kind of like panicking at this point because I had everything set up, and I was like, there's no way that I can traipse all around Bloomington because there was a race going on, so half of the roads that I needed to use were closed. And I was like, well, I guess we're gonna work with this. So I looked at YouTube, and I will say the British version of PBS, whatever that may be, it's not BBC for kids or anything like that, but it's kind of like a version of PBS. But they have a composting video. It's totally awesome, well worth it, and it was like 9 minutes, and I was like, score. And then I was like, Peppa Pig's kind of big with kids this age. They also have one on composting. So basically, I had 2 YouTube videos in there, which is fine. Like, we can use YouTube, as long as it's from a credible source, which the UK was Peppa Pig. Probably not so much, but... And then I had all of the... I never have any parents that stay, but I had everybody's kid's parent was in there. So that felt a little bit pressure, but then I was like, we're going to go with this. So that was interesting. And then this week has been really busy. And next weekend, I have a huge work responsibility that I cannot wait to get off of my plate and have it done. Like words can't even describe. But other than that, it's just been really busy. Trying to think. Nothing super crazy has gone on. So yeah, that's my 3 weeks in review.
So what's taking a bow? It's been a while since we spoke, so we should have some finished objects, right? Well, guess what? We do. Crazy, I know. I actually have 3 finished objects for 3 weeks, so yay me. One was close to being done last time we spoke. So I finished the Declan's hats by Samantha Kirby, and I used Dream in Color Smushy in the Pinot colorway on size 6 US 4 millimeters. And here's what it looks like. It's still a little cool because it's a little damp. Blacked it yet. Washed and blacked it yesterday. So you can see the cable working there. And I used just over half the skein, so I could do a small maybe hat. But this is the medium, and it actually fits my head pretty well for a hat. But this is part of our Operation Chemo Comfort knit along that we're doing. So this is my first hat I will be donating. I am going to do a different hat. I forget what it's called, but it's basically like folded ribbing, basic stockinette with a big pom-pom. So what I did is I picked up my Farmhouse White by Madeline Tosh Merino Light, and I'm going to hold it doubled for the brim. And then I'm going to do this Pinot. I think it's going to contrast really well for the top. And then I'm going to do a mixed colored pom-pom, I think. And hopefully that'll be my last hat that I do. I think that's all I will have time for. But this one is done. The second thing I finished is my second hat that I'm donating, and this is called Felicity by Wynette Clyde. I used Barocco Millefiori in color 7859, which is Viola, on a size 5 and 7 US, which is 3.75 and 4 millimeters. Here's what it looks like on a head. It's rather, it does a 5 for a while, and then you increase to the 7, then you increase and rapidly decrease. So it's rather bulbous. It is really small. This is going to be for a child or for somebody with a very small head. Mannequin heads are rather small to begin with, but it is very small. Worsted weight on a size 5 with only 70 stitches. That doesn't seem right for a hat. And I knew it when I knit it, but I was like, it'll fit somebody. So I do like the colors. I used up the yarn. I'm happy with it, other than the fit. But it'll be a good donation hat, so there's that, and that's done. I do not recommend the pattern, though, only for the sizing issue. Now, you could potentially just increase. It's a very simple pattern. It's free. You could just increase the numbers, figure out the decrease ratio, and just increase by that amount of stitches. The last thing I finished are my Spring Mix socks out of Knit Picks Felici in Spring Mix and Leading Men Fiber Arts Showstopper Intermission in Black Walnut, and a size 1 US, which is 2.25 millimeter needles. So let's talk about the second sock, okay? The second sock is this one. So I picked up the second ball of Knit Picks Felici, and I started to go from the outside like I had with the first one, and the colors were going in the opposite direction. It's kind of annoying. All right, whatever. So I put it on my ball winder, and I wound it, and then went from the opposite direction. Then some of these greens look exactly the same, and I don't really know what happened, but I thought I had matched it up because look, the top greens look the same, don't they? Mm-hmm. And then they're off. So, whatever. They are what they are. Not a huge issue. I thought I had put more effort into it to not have it mismatch. And it's the fact that they're off by like 2 stripes. But they're done. I do like the greens. I really like the contrast heel, cuff, and toe, especially with the hand dyed, the depth of quality, depth of color in the hand dyed. And I did actually try these on and knit these a little bit longer than I normally do in the foot, or that I tell myself that I do, to make sure that they fit. And I'm happy with them. I realize when I use a 50-gram skein, a half skein or showstopper intermission for cuff, heels, and toes, I have probably enough I think this took 18 grams. So if I did another pair of socks, that'd be another 18 grams, right? So that'd be 36. That'd leave me 14 grams. So I could do heels and toes on a third pair and not do the cuff. So you really get your money's worth, I think, if you're using them for cuffs, heels, and toes. And I already have 3 skeins of the intermission that I've used and that I'm collecting for future socks so that I can pair those colors. So, whether it's our booth or another booth, I would definitely say, if you're at a show and you see those half skeins of fingering weight and semi-solids with nylon in them, pick up a couple colors here and there. You never know what you're going to match them with for socks. So, that's all that I finished.
I finished my boomerang. This was knit out of another Crafty Girl in the Gamut colorway, and I used size 4 US needles. Thank you. This isn't as long as the boomerang that I normally do because I wanted leftovers for some blanket knitting that I have planned for next year. So I'm very happy with it. Super soft. This is, I think, my second boomerang knit with Sarah's yarn, but I really like it. This Gamut colorway is kind of like a go-to for everything that I wear color-wise. This is my one and only skein of it, but I could see myself purchasing this again and again. So, love it. Done. Glad it's done. So, enjoyable knit.
Awesome. So what's performing for us? What are we currently working on? Well, the first thing for me is Tidal Shoals by Michelle Steed. I'm using Leading Men Fiber Arts Soliloquy in Sandcastle and Showstopper Intermission in Raspberry Parfait. And I'm working it on a size 9 US, which is 5.5 millimeters. I finished the second armhole this morning. So this will be the top. And it looks very small, but it will be blocked much more open. So you have the first front here, the armhole, and then this is the back with the stripe down the middle, and then the second armhole, and then I just have to do the other front, and then you block it open, and then this kind of folds over, and they drape and shawl pin. Anyway, it's like a big stole with arms. So I just keep praying it's gonna block out big enough. That's all.
Did she see it?
Nope.
Okay.
I didn't let her see it. The next thing I'm working on is Witch Hazel by Amy Christophers using Barocco Tuscan Tweed in color 9042, which is Laurel, on a size 5 and 6 US, which is the 3.75 and 4 millimeter needles. I'm almost done with the first skein, and I'm working on my third of 5 repeats before I have to start decreasing. And this will be my third hat that I donate for the Operation Chemo Comfort Knit Along, and you can see the cabling happening there. Enjoyable knit, really enjoyable. I mean, you gotta follow the pattern and whatnot, but it's not too bad, and you get a really nice effect for what it is. And the pattern calls for this yarn. This is part of the Barocco booklet that features the Barocco Tuscan Tweed. So, and I picked up all the hats so far. All the yarn for my hats have been picked up from our local yarn store, which is Les Moutons Rouge Knittery, and you can find them online at lmrknittery.com. So, enjoyable. so hopefully that'll be done relatively soon so I can cast on that fourth and final hat that I was talking about with the pom-pom on there. The last thing I'm working on, I cast on yesterday because after visiting our friend Amber, and she was showing me the sweater she's knitting for her son RJ out of our Turkey Run in Auburn colorways. I was like, you know what? It's getting to be that time. I do about one sweater a year is my average, and I have probably 9 or 10 sweater lots of yarn. I need to start using it, or if I put it off and just got enough for 10 years, a decade, I need to start doing it. So I have a lot of my sweaters queued toward the top of my queue, so I just went through all the sweaters till I found one that actually had yarn paired with it. And the first one was the Rogers-esque cardigan jacket by Mary Townsend, and it's to look like the Mr. Rogers sweater. Just a basic cardigan, with a hemmed button flap and ribbing, very basic. I'm using Barocco Weekend DK, which is a cotton mix. So I've not knit a sweater out of cotton, so I'm thinking I usually run warm, so I need either something lightweight or something not as warm. I've knit sweaters out of bulky. That one looks really good, but you wear it when it's snowing and with no jacket. I have a baby alpaca sweater that took me 9 months to knit, cabled front and back. That thing I boiled, turned purple because I get so hot in it. And I have a couple other sweaters that just don't fit me all that great. So, did I gauge swatch for this? No. But I figured it'd fit somebody. Anyway, and this color I picked up on clearance when one of our local yarn stores closed down, and it is not my typical color, but she had a sweater's lot of it, and it was at a good price, so I said, well, we'll try. So this is color number 2144, which is squash, and I'm using a size 3 and 5 US, which is 3.25 and 3.75 millimeter needles. So I cast this on last night going out to dinner with my mom and Andy, and I started the ribbing. That's on 3s, and I just am purling back on my first stockinette row. This is just the back, and I'm on 5s now, and I've got to go for 18 inches before I start shaping for the underarms. So it's meant to have negative ease for the vintage feel. I'm just doing the normal size that I've realized fits me. I swear I've measured my chest circumference and it's a 46, but I've knit 46 in sweaters and they came out too big. So I've knit 44 in a couple and they've come out the way I like them fitting. So I'm knitting a 44 and we'll see how it goes. This is pieced. I do prefer it not being pieced, but pieced sweaters do give you better structure. You don't have it stretching and pulling at the seams so much. So there's that. Here's that gold. I don't know. Does it go with my skin tone? Who knows? I don't know. Whatever. But so I'm knitting a sweater. I got the sweater mojo going on. That's all that I am working on, other than well, I'll show it to you. I guess I can reach it. I haven't showed you my granny square blanket in a while. I don't know where the hook went, but I did work on it for a while before, so here we are. I've added some other colors, but it's getting there. I haven't worked on it in a couple weeks, but I did add this. I know I added this Directors Interp from us, from Leading Men Fiber Arts, and I need to get back to it, but can't wait to show you what it's living in when we get to stash enhancement. So anyway, what are you working on?
I'm working actively on 2 things, and I was right in the middle of the row, but I'm working on Steve's Christmas socks. This is knit on size 0 US, and I believe that's a size in millimeter.
It's a crazy size in millimeter, if you ask me.
It's 2.0. I thought I was right, but I was like, I don't know. And this is from Opal's Classic series, and it is the Offringen color. So this is what it looks like in skein.
I'd say see show notes, but
Yep. No shame. This is what the first sock, as a reminder, looks like.
Amazing.
I haven't put in the heel yet, but I just I just cast on the second sock this morning, so I'm clearly on the ribbing. So that's going. and hopefully it'll be on target to be done for Christmas. The second thing I'm working on is my socks, and this is Hermione's Everyday sock. It's also knit on size 0 US 2.0 millimeter, and I'm used the brown for the cuff, heel, and toes is Malabrigo chocolate, or Malabrigo sock in chocolate, and then the leg and foot are done in Madeline Tosh sock in Earl Grey. And so I do like the colors. It is kind of hard to see the pattern when you look at it real close. It looks kind of,
Yeah, but from what I
jumbled.
understand, I've never knit the Hermione's. In fact, I thought about doing them for yours, but from what I understand, it's more of just the texture to kind of break up some of the colors and do something different.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a pattern that the pattern jumps out at you.
Yeah. Well, and like you can tell when you're kind of like holding it at an angle, which I can appreciate.
Yeah.
But it's not so in your face on the project page, or pattern page, I should say. They did it in a solid color.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering if maybe if I would have chose that, it would have shown up better. But I do like it. It took a while to actually see the pattern, but it's a simple 4-row repeat, and 2 of those rows are knit. So it's been going well. It is a free pattern, so not giving any of the secret sauce away. But yeah, that's what I'm working on actively.
In rehearsal for us, what's coming up on the needles? For me, it's going to be Callie's Christmas socks. But I was waiting to see because I wanted to talk with her because she knows she's getting them. It's from Opal Classic line, again, in the exclusive colorway, which looks like this. So I wanted to talk with her. I was like, well, what color do you want for the cuff, heel, and toe? And she decided on yellow. So it may not be the exact matching yellow, but she's like, I like yellow. And I said, well, I can do that. So I just got to get the yellow out of our intermission base, and then I will cast these on. So these will look almost exactly like mine, other than the alternating cuff, heel, and toe, and in warmer colors rather than cooler colors.
So I have 2 things really 3 things in rehearsal. One is I have hats queued for our hat knit along. I'm not gonna try to make this sound nice. I had a disastrous afternoon in trying to wind some yarn on my Swift and ball winder because it fell off of the Swift because I didn't tighten the Swift part of it too tightly, and I thought I was good, but I was not. So it is a hot jumbled mess right now of yarn, and I've got two balls going of trying to rewind it and make it work. So once that gets done, then I will be casting that on. The second thing I will be casting on is I was gifted the Madewell cardigan by Joji Locatelli, and I fell in love with this cardigan. I saw it on Little Bobbin's podcast, and I was like, I have to make that. So Steve and I struck up a deal that if I finished my Hitafude cardigan, he would do my custom order for my sweater quantity, of which I asked for. And I've decided to rip out my Hitafude. It's not because of this, but it's because I've been losing weight, and I don't especially like the Hitafude on the size that I'm currently in between and hopefully going down. And since I further losing weight, I don't want to spend all that time knitting a sweater in a size that I hopefully will not be wearing when I get done. So I'm going to rip it out and reallocate the yarn for something else. So that's project number 2. And project number 3 is I'm going to be doing an Afghan for myself. I have been watching Dan and Kay of the Bakery Bears podcast, and I really liked Kay's mini skein blanket that she did, where she did it in like blocks. So it's kind of like the mitered squares blanket by Kate Gardner, which I've done before. And so I really like that. And I figure if I can allot all of the yarn for that and do one block a month next year, I could have 12 squares. So I was thinking about starting early in November and December to give me a month or two next year, so November and December of next year, to get it all seamed and everything. So that's what I'm thinking about doing. November is going to be an interesting month for me as far as work goes, as well as December. So we'll kind of see if like I can actually get those early blocks done. So, but that's more of a long-term kind of project, because I'm kind of realizing like I've made a lot of blankets for other people and I have 0 that I have made for myself, and I'd really like to kind of have one. I feel like I deserve one, so I'm gonna treat myself.
Do it.
So that's what I have in rehearsal.
Awesome. Behind the scenes, my spinning. I did finish some spinning. I finished a skein of commission spinning. It's Pigeon Roof Studios BFL Silk in the Jewel Song colorway, and I spun this as a 2-ply fractal spun, and I got 388 yards of a fingering weight.
That's really pretty.
So it's a lot of tonal purples.
Are they still dying?
I think so. Yeah, because I've linked their shop, and they've got a shop with a bunch of stuff in it. So that's that. Really happy with that. I haven't gotten a fingering weight hand spun in a while, so it was nice. That's silk, man, you know, it just lets you spin very thin. So there's that. I get to picture that tonight. That'll be going out the door soon enough. And then I didn't use my random number generator on my fiber stash, and it picked for me some Yarn Geek Fibers BFL in the Sugar Maple colorway that I picked up at this past year's Knitting Pipeline retreat in Washington, Illinois. And I picked up like 5 braids, so I best be spinning some of it before next one. This one has this. Okay, so when I fractal spin, I'm doing this as a 2-ply. When I fractal spin, I unbraid the whole braid and then I just fold it in half and tear it in the middle. Rather than trying to split the whole braid down the middle, you never get equal. I just split it, fold it in half and split it. This half had a lot more consistent color. The half that I'm spinning the long way, this will be split into thirds, has a lot more white spots in it with color in between. So I don't know if that's the way the dye technique happened on the braid or what. So it'll be interesting to see, because I think at this point it's going to be mostly 1-ply of like a white cream with then the fractaled smaller sections of this. So that's that, and that's all that I'm spinning. So let's move into In the Spotlight. What are we watching and reading? Alright, so shows that I'm currently watching still. I need to catch up on The Strain. I got caught up on American Horror Story season 6, or is this 7?
7.
7.
I think
it's 7.
Hotel was 6, right?
I think so. So I just got caught up in it. They just did like a big shift in it again, and then this last episode, it's like, let's kill everybody. So I don't know. I went along for the ride. I was back 2 episodes, so I shotgunned the 2 episodes together. So it's interesting. Anyway, Walking Dead came back, and I had it spoiled for me somewhat between my coworker and Andy, and they both didn't do it intentionally. But I did get caught up on it. I was like, I'm going to sit down and watch the season premiere. And then I realized I was still an episode behind from last season. I had to watch the season finale. And I sat down, and then I was like, oh, it's an hour and a half. So I got through that. And then the next night I was able to watch the season premiere. So we'll see where it goes. I've got another episode coming out tonight, but I'm still behind on... Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm still behind on other shows. And then another show that Andy and I both started, it's a new HBO show, I believe. Yeah, it's HBO. It's called Westworld. The only name you'd really know in it, well, there's 2. James Marsden is in it, and Anthony Hopkins is in it. But basically, it's about, I don't know if you would, somewhat futuristic world, I guess. I don't know. But there's a theme park almost. It's a Western world set at like the turn of the century, 1900s, and well, even just a little bit earlier than that. Anyway, people can pay to go to this theme park, and it's essentially has robots in it where you can do with what you please. You can kill them, you can do other things with them. You pay a lot of money, you get to dress up. They seem like humans. They've evolved them so much over the past 3 decades that they're human. They give them human-like qualities. They give them backstories, all this other stuff. And pretty much if they die, they regenerate them and reboot them and whatnot and put them back. And so it's almost like time is in a loop every day. And the robots are starting to
revolt.
Well, they're starting to put 2 and 2 together a little bit. They're, because they don't remember what's happened to them, the egregious things that have happened to them. But they're starting, things are starting to happen. So it's a really interesting premise. I think it's well done. I'm enjoying it. Andy's kind of like, meh, we're watching it together. But I do really enjoy it. Again, it's called Westworld. So check that out. That's it for me. I'll talk books if you want to talk TV first.
As far as TV goes, just kind of keeping up with my regular shows. I have yet to watch the season premiere or any of the episodes that follow of Empire, mostly because I know that in November I'm going to have a long block of time where I can actually catch up and just binge watch it, which I really enjoy because I can only handle so much suspense within, because I get really just super attached to the show and I recognize it. I'm a super fan and I know it, and I know that it's just going to be awesome when I get that bulk of time to just shotgun it. So I haven't, that's one of the shows that I haven't been watching, but keeping up with all of my NCIS shows. And I haven't watched Scorpion yet. Again, that's another show where I really enjoy just shotgunning it and not piecing it week by week. But yeah, as far as TV that goes, I've been reading a lot, so I can talk about that after you get done talking about your books.
So I finished 2 books in the last 3 weeks. The first one I finished is called No One Knows by J.T. Ellison. The premise of this is that pretty much 5 years prior to when the book, present day in the book, this woman's husband totally disappears. They go to a joint bachelorette party, and he never shows up at the party. They split up at the hotel. She can't find him. You find out that she was arrested and tried for his murder and essentially not found guilty. And she's been, dealing and grieving for the last 5 years. And where we pick up is right at where they declare him legally dead, and then she's going to benefit from his life insurance. There's some backstory. It goes back and forth, and it goes between her perspective and his perspective. It's a third-person omniscient narrator. There is a twist at the end, and I wouldn't call it so much as a twist as it is maybe a soft left turn. It felt disjointed to me. I gave it, I think, 2 to 3 stars. I wasn't thoroughly enjoyed with it. Again, I got it as an Audible daily deal. I refused to pay the $3.95 on the Audible daily deals. The only ones that get me are the $1.95. And then I listened to them and I'm like, that's why they're $1.95. Anyway, the other one that I finished had a similar premise, kind of, called Fool Me Once by Harlan Coben. And this woman's husband has recently been murdered, and her friend gives her a nanny cam set into a picture frame because she's like, you're a single mom now, and I know you have a nanny, but one can never be too safe. And so she sets up the nanny cam and she reviews it every day, and one day she sees her dead husband on camera and then playing with her child. And so she approaches the nanny about it, and pretty much the nanny maces her and steals the SD card and leaves. And you're kind of like, well, what's happened? Is the husband, did he fake his death? He's from a very wealthy family. The husband's brother had mysteriously died at sea on a yacht 20 years prior, and her sister had been killed 4 months before her husband was killed. And so then they find out that the same gun that killed her sister was the same gun that killed her husband. And you're trying to piece everything together. Again, there was a twist at the end. I thought it was a better of a twist, but instead of a soft left turn, maybe it was a very sharp right turn of a twist. You know, not a right turn where you flip the car and you're like, what just happened? So again, it was an Audible Daily deal. I enjoyed Fool Me Once better, so take that for what it is. So those are the 2 books I finished.
I actually read 3 books, and I'm really trying to get my Goodreads reading challenge done. I'm so not close at all. I am closer to the halfway point, but not foolishness. So anyways, I did read 3 books. I am reading young adult books because I really enjoyed their length. And I think young adult books have come a long way from when I was little, or young adult eligible reader. I don't know if that. Anyways, I think they've come a long way versus as far as themes and topics versus what was available at my local library. But we also have a new librarian too, who has kids in that age range, so that's kind of helpful. The first book I read was Moo by Sharon Creech. Sharon Creech was one of my favorite authors when I was growing up. You might know her from Walk Two Moons or Absolutely Normal Chaos, The Wanderer, but my favorite is one that didn't win an award. It's called Chasing Redbird. But she's kind of taken a lot of different turns in her writing career. And Love That Dog is one of her more well-known books among readers. And this one is kind of written in the same style of Love That Dog and I Hate That Cat. So it's kind of some of it's written in prose and some of it's just written in free poetry. It's hard to kind of explain, but it was really well written as far as that goes. It was about these 2 kids that have lived in the city all their life. They move out to the farm, and they are training Belties, which are a breed of cow, to show at the local 4-H fair. So I kind of enjoyed it from a 4-H perspective, although every state's different in their show rules and stuff, but some of the stuff that they were talking about as far as 4-H goes does not happen, at least in the state of Illinois. So some of that I was kind of like, I would have done some more research on this, but Sharon Creech's grandkids are in 4-H, so I can understand that the information that she got probably is well versed in that state's area. And the second book that I read was Best Man by Richard Peck. Richard Peck is actually from Central Illinois. He is from Decatur or Forsyth, which is not too far from both Steve and I. And Richard Peck has a long-standing career in young adult literature, and he was another author that I enjoyed when I was younger. The Best Man is about this youth's uncle and his partner, and his partner ends up being his student teacher. And so it was very well written. I enjoyed this book. I enjoyed its take on explaining the LGBT community in a like non like in a non-hurtful or harmful way, and it was really embracing, like very much like this is a positive message. And so I really enjoyed that, because I think that more kids are having family members that are, stepping out, because it's, not illegal to marry someone of the same gender now. And I really appreciate that from Richard Peck, especially because he's such a well-established author, and to be able to bring light to that. So I really appreciated his viewpoint on that. And the third book that I read was called Pax, and I really enjoyed this one. Like, it's one of those books that after I got done reading it, I was like, oh man, I kind of really don't want to read anything for a while because it was so well written. And it's told by two different viewpoints, the owner and then the fox. The fox was a pet. And so it kind of reminded me very much of like Homeward Bound. So if you're familiar with that movie, it's kind of very much in that same vein, except for it seems very dark, with a lot of war talk. So I enjoyed the book, highly recommend it. The author's information is on one of the pictures that I took on Instagram. So Moo, The Best Man, and Pax are all books that I highly recommend, and they were very enjoyable and very quick to read. In fact, I read all three of them in 72 hours. So that's what I've been reading.
Awesome. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to title this episode Oink Oink, because I've been a little bit of a wool pig the past 3 weeks. But when you've been to shows and go to a charity fashion show at your local yarn store and everybody's ranting and raving over a particular project, you feel enticed to buy yarn. So let me start there. So 2 weekends ago, the day after we did the Bishop Hill Fiber Spin-In, on that Sunday, my local yarn store owner, Kelly, hosted a charity fashion show at her store. So she booked a bunch of trunk shows and had a bunch of knit samples all over the store from various vendors. A lot of big lines. There were only 2, I think, hand-dyed samples. Leading Men Fiber Arts was one, and then I can't remember who the other one was. But and she had a wonderful handout with numbers. Everything was tagged with numbers, so you can see the what the pattern was in the designer and where it went, and you had featured yarns and all this other stuff. She also catered the event, so that was really cool. You bought a ticket, and it was a donation to the Cancer Society, and you got lunch, and I sat and knit for a while. Anyway, there was a pattern that was kind of the belle of the ball, and it was called 14 Karat. It's like a poncho, like a V'd poncho in the front and back, and it's fairly simple with some eyelets and garter, I think, maybe stockinette. And then it's a very simple large diamond motif on the bottom. And I think it called for Kobasi something, which she didn't have anything that I really cared for in the quantity that you needed, because they're sold in 50-gram skeins, and I think you needed 6 of them. So I was like, well, I don't know who I'd knit it for. Oh, I can knit it for Andy's mom next year for Christmas. I think she might like it, but I didn't care for any of the colors she had left. And she was like, well, it really takes 3 skeins of fingering weight. You could use Madeline Tosh, blah, 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 blah. Well, Andy's mom really likes purple. And I was like, well, I don't want something that screams purple, though. So I went looking at the Madeline Tosh wall, and I came across this colorway in DK, and I was like, oh, it's DK. And then I found it in fingering. And I bought 3 skeins. It is short of yardage by about 200 yards, but Andy's mom's a smallish woman, and the way you kind of knit it is like in a stole, and then you seam the 2 ends together. So I was like, it doesn't need to be as wide. It comes in medium and large, and they had medium, and everybody was looking good in it, even somebody of a larger stature. So I picked up 3 skeins of Tosh sock in the Dust Weaver colorway, and it's going to be really hard to see in this light, but in the camera I'll hopefully pick up. There's very subtle purplish pink tones to it with like a taupe color. So I thought it was very neutral enough with a hint of purple. And I'm hoping to knit this for her for next Christmas, or maybe even for her birthday if I get so inclined. So I've got 3 skeins of that.
That's pretty. She'll
So.
love that.
So that's that, and I picked that up a while ago, and Andy just rolled his eyes at me. And then we've ended the Fall Fiber Expo in Ann Arbor, and as one does, one gets to meet other vendors that they've never seen before, and then they're like, ooh, I like your yarn, and I'm like, ooh, I like your yarn, and then we trade. So the first thing I traded for, Andy actually picked out. It wasn't my first choice. I found a pattern for it. It's not, but I need to get out of my color wheelhouse, and he definitely did that. This is from a new dyer. This is actually the sister of Mint Rain. She's just started dyeing. Her name's Carolyn Mayday, and she is the owner of Anomalous Mind. And this is her 100% superwash merino base, 822 yards to 150 grams of a heavy lace light fingering weight. And this did not have a colorway. I think I called it Vintage Christmas. So I picked like a boomerang shaped shawl with texture pattern with this. So Andy liked it. I let him pick it up. So I don't know. She's on Instagram, Facebook, and Ravelry. Oh, anomalousmind.etsy.com. So I'll try to link her in the show notes. The next thing I traded for was from Mint Rain hand-dyed yarns, and this is her Tough Sock, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 463 yards. It's a variegated. The colorway is the Jedi Were Real, and it's a blue batch because it came out a little too blue, and I let Mint Rain pick this out for me, and she saw that Andy liked this when he was visiting their booth, so she brought it back over for me, and I really like this one. So, picked out a pair of socks, I think, for this. So enjoyed that. And then there was an alpaca farm next to me, but she also hand dyes some yarn. Her alpaca farm is Pronking Acres, but then she hand dyes yarn which she calls Posh Fibers. And this is her From the Farm DK. It's 200 yards of 100% alpaca in the fall foliage colorway. And I thought this would make a really nice masculine hat. It's very hidden tones underneath there. So, if you can maybe see all the tones in there. So, I picked that up. And then last but not least, I had the pleasure of having dinner with the owner of V Yarns. And I had not heard of her before. This is her Toto, would you say Taito? Taito base, which is 430 yards, 100 grams of 75% superwash merino, 15% nylon, 10% tencel in the Night at the Opera colorway. It's kind of Into the Woods-esque in our colorway, but different. It's got some purples in there and things. And I don't remember what I paired with this. Something. I paired a pattern with it already. So, I liked it. So that was Fall Fiber Expo. But I did pick up something that was not yarn related. I have been looking for a basket for a little while to house all my scrap yarns for my crocheted blanket that I showed you. It's been sitting in a little paper bag, that you get from a vendor, and it was overflowing and it sits next to my couch. And I was like, I want a decorative basket, at least make it look nice. So there were 2 basket vendors. I was liking some things. They were, handmade baskets are not cheap. The ones I were liking were a little bit expensive, and then I kept looking at them, every time I'd walk out to go to the bathroom or whatever. I'd stop by their booth, and then I saw this one, and I got excited. I went back and told Andy about it. He's like, just go get it if you like it. So this is the basket with handles, but then it's got a front to it, and it's got a little design to the front of it. I've got scrap yarns hanging out over here. You ready? Look at it! It's got trees and it's got a little clay bear button. And excuse my French, if you have little kids, you might want to earmuff them for the next 10 seconds. But I walked back after buying this, and I was then encouraged to tell everybody that day, this is my Does a Bear Shit in the Woods basket. Yep. So, I love it. Love it. Was not what I was expecting to get basket-wise, but it sold me. They are not online. It was run by an elderly couple. It's called Handwoven Baskets Village Crafters. They have an email address. If you're interested, please just email me on Dramatic Knits on Ravelry, and I'll give you their email address. But I asked them, and they said no, they don't sell online. You can email them. But yeah, so as you can see, it's got all my scraps in there. So love that. Love it. Love it. Love it. And then last but not least, when I went to visit our friend Amber, I was, staring at her wall of yarn all day, and we were talking about different dyers and, yarns and what you talk about, two knitters, right? And I had mentioned she has a rather large stash of nomadic yarns, and her beautiful self-striping gumball, hand-wound. And I said, I've never tried hers. I've, gone to her shop a couple times, but I've never pulled the trigger. I have too much yarn. She's like, oh, well, you're taking one home. She wouldn't take no for an answer. Trust me, I tried to tell her no. I was like, I don't need more yarn. But in typical Amber fashion, she is very generous and would not take no. So she let me little colors. We were talking about what would work for me and what wouldn't. And I was tempted by the Rhinebeck sweater colorway that everybody's knit, but I was like, you need that, Amber. That's you need to keep that. But I picked up a skein called Dog Days, and it is her twisty sock, which is 400 yards of 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. And it's kind of a mix of like bright and dark. So it's got the aqua, the chartreuse, and then the orange, but then it has a gray stripe and a dark brown stripe as well. So it's my first ever Nomadic Yarns, who is relatively local to us. She's up in the Chicago suburbs. So you can check her out on Etsy as well. And one of the only reasons too we talked about, like, for me personally, if I'm going to make impulse purchasing online, I'm much more inclined to buy in person, but if I'm going to do it online, I want to know that it's going to be shipped soon, and she's pretty much died to order. She does have some ready to ship, but any of these gumdrop type self-striping, you have to wait for your order, and I'm like, by then I'll have buyer's remorse and not be so inclined to want it, but I do very much like this, so I can't wait to knit that up and see what it looks like. So I've been a bit of a wool pig, and that's all that I bought. That's just those few things. That's what I picked up this past 3 weeks.
I have two things, and one has already made its Instagram debut. This is a bag by the Silver Shed USA, and I believe this is the medium size, but it's the Peanuts.
Who, by the way, Silver Shed USA is going to be vending at Vogue Knitting Live in Minneapolis, which I think is this weekend. So
I love this so hardcore. And it's got orange chevrons. So what do you do when you have a Peanuts fall bag? You naturally go on Etsy and see that, or actually I did not go onto Etsy. I was on Instagram, and I can't remember who it was, but they tagged this next vendor that I'm going to talk about on a post, and I was like, I love that project. I need this. I don't know what my life is going to be without this. But the vendor is Mermaid Knitting, and it's mermaidknitting.etsy.com. And first of all, can we just talk about this? That's a pumpkin on her business card, and it's a little clothespin. Sold. And the packaging was so cute, and guys, I'm sorry, but like I had to rip open. But it says mermaid kisses, starfish wishes here. I just love this. Packaging was on point. And so I got this kit. It's Mr. Gobbles. And I'm not sorry at all in any sense of the word. But let's be real. Like, who does not need a knitted turkey? Yeah, I need one. So, it came in little mini skeins to make the turkey. And at first I was like, nah, I won't make the turkey. I'll use these for, you know, my blanket that I want to make. And then I was talking to my mom about it, and I was like, realistically, I'm making this turkey, and this better be the pride and joy of our table for a good hot, like, 48 hours. So, which is going to be nice because Mom and I are taking a vacation at Thanksgiving time, prior to Thanksgiving, down to our family's lake cabin at the Lake of the Ozarks. So, and we might be fancy and we might go eat at Tantera. Tantera is kind of like a resort ritzy class, whereas, like, you know, where you might get beer on tap, whereas in our part of the Lake of the Ozarks, it's Natty Light and someone's driving a lawnmower kind of deal. So there's nothing wrong with that. I would just like to say those folks are kind folks. They mow our yard when we're not there. I enjoy them immensely, but there is a little bit of a very kind folks. Don't want to dissuade that, but I also really...
We have that here. There is
Yeah.
a gentleman every Saturday rides his mower up our main street in front of our house in the middle of the street, just hanging out. It is what it is.
It takes all kinds of kinds to run this world.
Yep.
So,
Different strokes for different folks, right?
you could say that again.
So anything else?
Nope, that was all for me.
So lots of stash enhancement this week. It's been 3 weeks, right? You can't judge us. Come on.
I felt like I did well.
Anyway, let's move on. So a round of applause. We have our It's Fall Y'all knit along going
Yes.
on.
So it will continue to go on until November 30th. You can use whatever project to justify that it's fall, whether it's, you know, a scarf, hat, mittens, whatever, whether it's colors, whether it's a certain memory tied to this project, whatever. I really don't care as long as you can justify it to me. Like, I'm not going to be like the, you know, like
Knitting police.
yeah, no, that's not, I don't know. So anyways, if you use any base of Leading Men Fiber Arts, then you can enter your finished object in the finished object thread twice. Like I said, it'll go until November 30th. Whips prior to September 1. Cool. Use them. Clear off those needles. And here next week, I will announce what we're doing for December. So then that way, if you want to purchase yarn or cue patterns or whatever, you can have some time to do that.
Cool. We also have our Operation Chemo Comfort Hat Knit Along currently going on. That's going to be open through November 15th. We are asking that you ship your hats to the coordinator, which the address and contact person is in both the FO thread and the chatter thread by November 15th so that they can have it by early December at the latest, which is when they are going to be donating these to the hospital. So I think we are over 75 hats because I know we're up to 3 prizes. Like I said, every 25 hats we get put into the finished object thread that is going to be donated. You must actually donate your hats, folks, please. Then we will draw for a prize. So I'm super excited. I would love, love, love to see us hit at least 100 hats because their goal is 400. And they have probably 20 to 25 different organizations either helping by doing hats, knitting hats, or getting the word out. So I would love for the Dramatic Knits video podcast to help them achieve a quarter of their goal. I think that says a lot about our community. So November 15th will be the cutoff for that. I will lock the thread, and then the next time we record after that, we will pull for prizes. Again, you do not have to have started a hat within this time frame. Any hats you have around the house that are knitted, sewn, you can check out the guidelines. They can be out of any fiber. They just ask that you tag the hats if possible, especially if there's special care instructions like hand wash, things like that. There is a link to their website which has a PDF of tags on there if you want to print them off, or if you want to include your own tags. It's a very generic tag PDF. You can make nice tags if you want. I recommend putting each hat in a like Ziploc bag with a tag so that they're all separated and all that stuff. But just get them there. This is the most important part, right? So any hats you can donate would be greatly appreciated. All right, and let's move on to Race to the Finished Object contest. First off, I do want to gently remind Maria Wilhelmina, you won for the September Race to the Finished Object contest. You won a book, and that's Mariette from Alamo, California, for knitting a dishcloth. You have until the next time we record to get in contact with me, Dramatic Knits, to claim your prize, Maria Wilhelmina. I hope you do. I want to ship it out to you. But if you do not contact us by the next time we record, we will redraw for a winner. We have our October Race to the Finished Object contest currently open. Unfortunately, the month does not end until tomorrow, so you've got to wait a whole nother 2 weeks before we draw for prizes. But we have a skein of yarn. I think it's Cascade prints, Cascade fingering, Heritage prints, I think. And we have a pattern from our featured designer, who is Laura Linneman. Lala Designs on Ravelry, and one half of the Knit Girls video podcast. November's will be opening on Tuesday, and you can start posting your finished objects for the month of November. In that thread, again, we have a pattern from our featured designer, who is Laura Linneman. And then November's skein of yarn is a skein of Opal Cotton Premium, and this is in the color number 8890. I can't see a name on here. It's 38% wool, 32% polyamide, 30% cotton. And this was generously donated to the podcast. So make some great summer socks, or if you live in a warmer climate. So this will be for the November Race to the Finished Object contest. So that's that. So we are going to move into around center stage, all things Leading Man Fiber Arts. I'm not going to keep you for much longer. So I am going to show off a new colorway if you're interested. But if you leave us now, we understand, and we will see you in 2 weeks. And so, yeah, first off, I do want to tell you that Leading Men Fiber Arts is in a new retail location come early next week. We shipped it out yesterday, so Knit One Purl 2 in Rockford, Illinois is going to be carrying our yarns. Mostly sport weight, our callback base, but also some of our show stealer, our MCM base, fingering weight. So check them out. If you're in the northern Illinois regions, you can check out Knit One Purl 2 in Rockford. We do have their information listed in our retail locations tab on our website, which is leadingmenfiberarts.bigcartel.com. Tuesday is the start of November, and on the 1st of November, we always have a new colorway of the month. Most months, about 10 months out of the year to be exact. And so we've been waiting to the last minute the past couple months, and this month was no exception. But I came home from Amber's on Friday, went to work, experimented, liked what I came up with, and so I'm ready to show it to you guys. So I got it all dyed up. We're working on rescanning it. The colorway is called Oh Christmas Tree. I wanted to bring in a new Christmas holiday yarn. And so we have I'll Meet You by the Mistletoe, which is very much white, green, red, and chunks of color in the skein. This one is a soft green as the base with speckles of Christmas lights put in, and so here it is on DK. This again is Oh Christmas Tree. So it has the yellow lights, the Kelly green lights, the blue, red, and the magenta purplish lights. So I looked at a couple different types of Christmas lights, strands of Christmas lights. I went with what I grew up with. It's not what we currently use. We have like a mishmash of like leftover lights on our Christmas tree. It's like the saddest thing ever. We've been talking about getting a second Christmas tree, so
We should have got plenty of room.
we do, but it's a matter of where to put it. Our one we have right now is not that tall, but it's very thin. But we don't have like room to get a really wide tree. But we're talking about putting that one up at the top of the stairwell and then getting a bigger one for in here. So, but we're also talking about putting it here in the dining room and moving tubs of yarn around where we store inventory. Anyway, here is where it is. Here it is on Show Stealer MCM. So very soft speckles. So
I think this would be a really nice sweater.
So there we go. Oh, Christmas Tree. That'll be premiering on Tuesday. It'll be up from November 1st to November 8th. It is on a pre-order status. We do say it'll ship by the end of the month, but usually it's less than a week before it's out the door and and headed your way. We wanted to do it for November so that you would have time to potentially knit something for Christmas rather than waiting till December. We already have December's colorway. It's not themed. It's something we came up with before, and we decided to wait to push that out, but I'm excited to show you December's as well. So that will wrap up 2016 in the year of Leading Men Fiber Arts, which means come 2017 in January, we will once again be doing the year in review sets, full skeins of Showstopper and Show Stealer options, as well as mini skein sets of 10 different colorways we came out with as our colorways of the month in 10 gram mini skeins. So super excited to be breaking those down. Though I did all the gradients and mini skeins for the longest time. Andy now knows how to do it. Finally gave him enough crap, and he has started breaking down mini skeins and gradients. All right, so new retail location, new colorway. Let's show you what's been updated recently, like in the past week. This isn't everything in 3 weeks. It's only a few things that I've saved from the, past couple of days. So if I pull in, we've got I reconfigured some colors for our Wonder Wander hat and mitten kits. These are designed by Megan Williams at the Stockinette Zombies. They come with the hat pattern as well as the mitten pattern. You can get both out of the 2 skeins of DK. We do recommend that you change the color of the cuff and the brim so that they don't match. That way, because they use more yarn. But this one is Double Your Pleasure with Royalty. It's very similar to the hat original pattern, kind of. And then I'm going to be putting up, I got one more that I need to put up soon that's Bears colors, so Chicago Bears football team. Recently, last night, I put up Perfection on Show Stealer, which is 435 yards of Superwash Merino Cashmere Nylon, 80-10-10. On Showstopper, we have Smoky Quartz. This is 75% Superwash Merino, 25% nylon, 463 yards. And on Callback, which is Sport Weight, 328 yards, 100% Superwash Merino, we have Night Lily. And that's all I've saved for you the past week. But at least you get a little bit of yarn preview. So a little bit over an hour, but it's been 3 weeks. So I think we've been pretty good. And we had a lot of stash enhancement and knitting and finished objects. And so it'll be 2 weeks, I promise. We're done with show season. We have a trunk show scheduled for December at our local yarn store again, but other than that, we're done for a little while. So, which is good because we need to recuperate after this past show season. So,
that's true. You guys had a busy season.
Yep, and we're going to be starting right back up to prep for next show season. No real break, but at least we don't have to travel. So
yeah.
But anyway, I hope you guys have a fabulous 2 weeks. Again, if you have any questions or comments, you can find us on our website, dramaticknits.com. You can find the show on YouTube, Dramatic Knits Video Podcast, or just search Dramatic Knits. You can find us on iTunes as well, and please join our Ravelry group, which is Dramatic Knits Video Podcast group. So those are all the places you can find us. I'm Dramatic Knits on Ravelry.
I'm Calsters on Ravelry.
And so if you have any questions, please feel free to email us. We are very willing to share our limited knowledge, but if we can help, we definitely will. So until we see you again in 2 weeks,
we hope you
knit something dramatic.